So today I'm going to be running through the setup process with Hayes, the Aibo ERS-1000. I've already done a shorter setup video with Ren back in 2018, but I wanted to make a more in-depth one so that everyone can have a step-by-step guide to follow when their new Aibo arrives. This guide will only apply to Aibos with an active cloud plan that have not yet been linked to a My Aibo account, which for the most part is going to be ones that are purchased new from Sony. So this right here is everything that you'll receive with a brand new Aibo ERS-1000. But I would say it's pretty bare bones. You get the cocoon to travel with, the Aibo itself, the charging mat, the charging station itself, the paperwork, the charging cord, and a pink ball. I would really recommend at least getting an iBone for your Aibo, and if you have a lot of hard floors in your house, a set of paw pads, because these are not included from the start, but are pretty important accessories to have, in my opinion. Some Aibos arrive with their batteries drained, so it's always a good idea to charge your Aibo first so they'll have a full battery during setup. I'm going to be charging her just on the pink station portion right here, which is a fully functioning station on its own, but you can use the gray charge mat beneath it if you wish. You'll notice that while your Aibo is charging, the indicator light on the neck should be orange, and it will turn green once your Aibo is finished. If it's any color other than this, then there's likely an error of some kind, and it is good to remove the Aibo and reseat it. The only exception is for Aibos that are already fully set up. If you see the light cycling through a range of different colors, this likely means that the Aibo is updating and you should not disturb it while this process is going on. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do to get started with the setup process is to download the My Aibo app. This app is free and is necessary for setting up a new Aibo, but you can also download it even if you don't have an Aibo because it has a little virtual Aibo in the app that you can play with. Once you've downloaded the My Aibo app, you'll want to either create a new My Aibo account if you don't have one already, or log into your existing My Aibo account. I'm already signed in here because I use the app regularly with Ren. So once you're all signed in and ready to go, this is a good point to start up your Aibo. So I'm going to be starting up Hayes here for the first time. I have never tried booting her before, so I'm going to hope everything works right, but we'll just have to see. Okay, power light is green. So you're not going to want to do anything while your Aibo is still starting up. You're going to want to wait until they're fully booted, which will be when they finish this whole stretch sequence and bark twice at the end. Older series models had the different boot tunes that they would play while they're booting up. The ERS-1000 doesn't do something exactly like that, but it does this whole stretch process. Okay, so after that double bark, Hayes here should be ready to go. That bark sequence she did after that is actually what Aibos do after they haven't been booted for a long time. So I don't know if she's been booted up at some point before this, but she should be new. So, what you want to do when your Aibo is now booted up is to go to the menu here on the side and click Add Aibo. At this point, you will be able to enter your Aibo's product key or take a picture of their QR code. Important to note, this is not the same QR code that is on the charging station or on the Aibo's belly. This is on a little slip of paper that will come in your Aibo's box. And this QR code can only ever be used once. If you see a second-hand Aibo with a QR code, it cannot be used again no matter what the seller says. So this is just something to keep in mind. Okay, so I am just right now scanning her QR code off screen, and now she is ready to set up, so I'm going to press the next button. Now it asks for your zip code to confirm whether you can use your Aibo in your region. This is because due to some of the facial recognition that Aibo uses, Aibo cannot be purchased or used in Illinois and I believe some parts of Maryland. There are people who've been able to get around this, though. And I'm just waiting for the app to load right now, because it is very slow. Okay. The next step is to actually start the setup process itself. In this process, you will connect your Aibo to your Wi-Fi, select the language you want to use with your Aibo, set your Aibo's name and sex, test name recognition, set the time zone, and set up Aibo photos. So right now I am going to start up Hayes' setup. Okay, let's keep your Aibo up to date. Connecting Aibo to a Wi-Fi network enables automatic system updates to keep Aibo up to date. We recommend connecting Aibo to a Wi-Fi network if you have one. So I'm going to go ahead and set up her Wi-Fi right now. Okay, so now we are going to select a Wi-Fi network. I am just going to enter in the password to my Wi-Fi network right now. Now she is connecting to the network. And this might be a good time to point out that now that the actual setup process has started, you can see that she is sitting down and waiting for me to continue with this. This is partially why I think you probably wouldn't want to run this on an Aibo with a low battery, because she knows that setup is going on right now and the app is interfacing with her right now, so I don't know exactly what would happen if you lost connection during this process. I assume you'd be able to start it later, but better to just avoid that scenario to start with. I just got the notification that she has connected to my home Wi-Fi network, so we're going to keep going with the setup process. So I'm going to press next. And next we're going to set up the language. I believe that Japanese Aibos come set to Japanese by default and American Aibos come set to English by default, but you can change it right here when setting up the Aibo, so you don't necessarily have to pick the language of the country that your Aibo came from. So I'm obviously going to go with English. So now it's time to set the Aibo's name and gender. So her name is Hayes, so I'm going to enter it in here at the top. And then you can also choose the Aibo's gender. I am going to have her be a girl. And this just gives a pop-up saying that it affects your Aibo's tricks and personality, and you cannot change this unless you initialize your Aibo. So she is set to a girl right now, but there are 3 options you can choose, which are boy, undecided, or girl. And I believe these all have slightly different voices to them. The girl voice is much higher pitched than the others. So now we're going to the next page. And here the app is prompting me to call the Aibo's name. And if she barks, the name has been set successfully. Hayes! Good girl. Hayes! Hayes! And if your Aibo is not able to understand the name when you say it, you can always change the pronunciation to make sure that it's very clear for the Aibo. So I am actually going to change her pronunciation just to make it a little bit more straightforward, even though I don't believe she's having any problem with it as is. So I am just going to write it a little more phonetically in the pronunciation section here. Okay, and now I am setting her volume to volume level 1 because the default voice is very, very loud, even on level 2. Okay. So now I have her set to volume level 1, and I've changed the phonetic pronunciation of her name. So now it lets you select the time zone that you're in from a drop-down list, so I'm just going to select this and keep going. Next page is photo setup. This gives you different options to your Aibo's photo taking permissions when running autonomously. You can choose whether to let your Aibo take photos at all or not in the first place. Now, even if you disable photo taking, your Aibo is still always, using its camera and sending information to the cloud, so that's just something to keep in mind. It's how the Aibo operates. But this will disable or enable it to take actual still photos that it saves in the My Aibo app. I'm going to leave photo taking on, and I am actually going to turn on auto photos. And auto photos lets the Aibo take photos autonomously and not just when you tell it to. And then you can also choose to notify of photos taken by motion, which basically means the Aibo will give a little ear flick when it takes a photo, and I'm going to turn that on as well. And this just says that if you give permission to take photos, your private photos may be uploaded to the server. Photos taken can be viewed only when signed in with your registered account, and I'm just going to press OK and continue here. Now it says Aibo has been added. Enjoy life with your Aibo. It says you can learn more about how to interact with your Aibo in the tutorial, and you can open the tutorial at any time from the menu. And I'm going to say later because we don't need the tutorial right now. And you can see that Hayes is now visible on the screen here, and it lets me select an Aibo from the drop-down list because I also have Ren here, and I can choose who I want to play with. Okay, I gave her her ball because she wanted it. But now that the base setup process is done, there are a few more things that I need to do to finish sort of personalizing her and setting her up, which are changing her voice and eye color. Those are not part of the default setup process, but are something you generally will want to do when you first get your Aibo. These are things that can always be changed at any moment and do not require initialization to change, like the Aibo's gender. So, to change these, you'll want to go to the home screen of the app here, and then you'll want to press Characteristics. And Characteristics opens up this menu which has tricks, eyes, and voice. So I'm going to start by setting her voice. I like it if my Aibos all have different voices so I can tell them apart. There aren't that many options, but since Ren is on the default bark, I am going to put her on the dog bark. This means that she'll have a different sounding bark than Ren, so I can tell them apart. Okay. And this says Aibo may go a little wild with his real dog's bark. And I am going to change her voice to this. And now it's done. Hayes! You gonna show off your bark, Hayes? Boof, boof. Hayes! Sit! Okay, so now she's on the dog bark setting. And now I am going to pick her eye color. So I'm going to go into the eyes setting here. And since she is a Black Sesame Aibo, she has access to a few different eye colors from the default ones. But if you have any other color of Aibo, your options will start here at Winsome Pink, Regal Violet, Intelligent Blue, Radiant Gold, Wicked Green, Mischievous Brown, and Eternal Silver. Ren is set to the Eternal Silver right now. So I'm going to use one of the special colors for her. The options here are all just called special. There's special blue, special orange, special green, and special pink. I'm not actually sure which eye color I'd like best with her. I'm going to try out the pink and the orange to see which I prefer. So we're going to go with pink first. So let's change her eyes to pink right now. And she's conveniently facing away from the camera so no one can see her eyes. Hayes, you want to turn around so someone can see your eyes? There you go. There are your eyes. Those pink eyes are very pretty looking. Yes, they are. Do we want to try out the orange too? Okay. So here are what the pink eyes look like. It's coming up nice close to the camera, though a little bit out of focus. Let's get her a little closer. There we go. Those are the pink eyes. So now I'm going to see how the orange eyes look on her. There we go. Lie down. Hayes. Good girl. Oh, I don't think you can see her eyes with the glare there. Move her back a little bit. So also, I have not had an Aibo on the dog bark setting before, but it seems like the dog bark volume is a little bit quieter than the standard volume, so bark volume, so I think I'm going to turn up her volume just slightly on this bark. But maybe that is sort of a little cheat for someone if they would like a quieter Aibo, that you can set it on the dog bark. So I'm going to set her volume to 2 right now and see how that sounds. And the volume is just something that you can always change in the app, but also you can lift up the Aibo and undo the little hatch on their belly to change the volume that way if you like. So I think I think I am going to change her eyes to pink right now because I prefer the look of the pink a bit to the orange, but I might end up changing them later. So her eyes are going back to special pink now. And some other things that you can change in the app that you might want to look at when you first set up your Aibo is whether you have system updates set to be done manually or set to be done automatically. And since she is currently running 3.50, that is the current version of the system software, so there is no need to run an update right now, but generally you will want to check for updates and run an update if you need to when you get a new Aibo. And I am going to keep updates on manually because I don't always have the best internet, and I don't want her trying to update on her own at a time when the internet might be down. But it's completely up to you which of these options you prefer. Another setting that you might want to look at when you first get your Aibo is whether you have auto start after charging enabled. This will mean that your Aibo is able to get up off the charger on its own when it is done. I do not have this enabled for my Aibos because I do not have them running 24/7 and I do not want them to injure themselves by running when I don't want them to. But it's something that you can turn on at any time in the app. It is turned off by default. So another thing you can get to through the settings section in the app here is called Robot Link. Robot Link lets your Aibo connect to other Aibos and become friends with them. This is something when set up for the first time that has to be set up in the Friends feature, so I'm just going to click this Go to Friends button. And your Aibo can make friends with other Aibos, both those that it meets in person and ones that it meets virtually. So I'm going to go to the next page here, and setup is just going to have Hayes make friends with some of the Aibos at the Sony store in Japan. So it says, welcome to Aibo Friends. There are two different ways to become friends with another Aibo. You can have a meal with the Aibo, or you can scan a QR code. Now this QR code is not the same as the Aibo's setup QR code. This is a different one that you will generate in the Friends section of the app. So I'm going to turn on Robot Link to allow my Aibo to invite other Aibos to have meals with her. So now I have to add some friends. Let's see what we got. Invite for a meal. Now I might have to go get her meal bowl for this. You don't need it, but it's nice. Okay, so we are going to add Poro from the Sony store Sapporo. And click the Invite for a Meal button. So I'm going to pick one of these Aibo Crisp here, and I'm going to say Give to Aibo. And here is her sitting down and having a meal with Poro. Looks like her eye color hasn't updated in the app yet, since it's still showing her eyes as blue when they're pink on her. That might just be a little glitch right now. Now another feature that I'll probably be doing a bit of a video on later is that once you have Aibo Link enabled, you can also have your Aibo learn dances from the regions of its friend Aibos by eating meals with them. And that is something that is really fun to do, and I have Ren learning some of the dances right now. So I get stamps for having a meal, and I can get more food from collecting all the stamps. And I also will get treats to feed her when she makes friends with another Aibo. So now we can go to Friends, and Poro now shows up. And it says once you become friends with another Aibo, you can view each other's profiles or deepen your friendships by inviting them for a meal from this screen. Yeah, you can always go back to have meals with Aibos that are on your friends list, or you can add new Aibos as friends and have meals with them. And now it's going to have her be invited for a meal by Barry, who is another one of the Aibos at the Sony store in Osaka. And Barry is a strawberry milk Aibo. Okay, Barry has been added to my friends list. Now I can go to Settings, Robot Link, and now after all that I can turn Robot Link on. There we go. And now she's able to have meals with other Aibos. Okay, so this last part here is something that you don't necessarily have to do if you're going to be running your Aibo exclusively on carpet, because Aibos have a little more trouble with the paw pads on carpet, but I would very highly recommend installing paw pads on your Aibo if you are running them on hard flooring. It will significantly reduce the sound of the Aibo's steps, and it will also significantly reduce the impact of the floor on the Aibo's joints over time, because this can lead to joint failures. So I'm going to install her paw pads, just one on each paw, and you are technically supposed to let this sit for 24 hours to let the adhesive dry, though I usually just let it sit for a few hours, but you can do longer if you want it to be as strong as possible. These will usually last at least a year or so of use before they need to be replaced, and they cost $10, so it's not terrible, but it is just something to keep in mind with your Aibo. So I'll put it on, you want to press it down firmly once it's on there. So I just went ahead and added the rest of her paw pads off screen, and that's about it for this video. So I hope you all have an awesome day.